Welcome back to DNF. I'm Jessica Spatana. He's Spencer Hall. We have a very special guest today. His name's Spanners. He's back. He's from the Missed Apex podcast, one of the greatest F1 podcasts there is. Second, maybe to this one, though.
Maybe.
And maybe. It's a generous maybe. But we have a lot to talk about today. We had a race. We also had a NASCAR driver apparently shit his pants. I don't know if we want to start with that, but Spencer, where should we start with Spanners?
Spanners, first of all, let's start with breaking. I want to go with breaking news if we can, which is that we have in our inbox confirmation from The Athletic that Adrian Newey is headed to, of all places, Aston Martin.
I don't think that's a massive surprise, though, because there was, he was stated that he didn't really want to go to Italy. So it would have been a really big stretch to go, all right, at the end of your career, when you probably want to be at home with access to your boat, you're going to up sticks and move to Maranello. That was always a bit of a long shot. And then you think, well, Mercedes, I think, are set because they've got James Allison there. So that would be too many chefs spoiling the broth. And so actually, Joe Saywood said to us at Miami time, he said, Aston Martin. So I've been expecting this announcement for a while, and it's a big one because I think that any team that gets Adrian Newey now has like the best fault finding tool in Formula One, because he's going to go straight in there and go, oh, you've got the giblet connected to the smoothie bod. Oh, that's silly. You shouldn't do that. Start ripping things out. And that's going to be just an instant leap forward, plus all the knowledge of everything Red Bull have been doing for the past, decade or so. I think it's going to be amazing. I think Alonso's going to be out of there. They're going to hire in a second driver who knows exactly the score. It's going to be Lance Stroll, world champion. I called this as soon as Aston Martin took over. In fact, no, as soon as Racing Point took over from Force India, I said, Lance Stroll, world champion. It's happening.
So all bits aside, does this actually make Aston Martin a contender? Because obviously last season, the way they started out, pretty good. Things have not been so good since the midway point in 2023, I would say. Where does Newey land them? Are they in the front of the pack? Are they like still middle-ish, like 4 or 5 level? What do we do here?
Could be anything, couldn't it? I genuinely think sky's the limit, because their general approach was sort of a little bit disappointing under Dan Fallow. And I'm sure he's great, and I'm sure he was really instrumental in Red Bull's success as well. But when he came over to Aston Martin, they seemed to be going, right, let's look at what the other teams are doing and come out of the box firing. And I think they did get a punishment for the brake duct aero, so I don't think that's wildly controversial. But then there was other rumours of things going a little bit further, not quite as far as the guy in the MotoGP paddock who got caught with a LiDAR device. And then his team boss was, I'm telling you off. That's very, very naughty. Now go on an extended, long luxury holiday. But yeah, so there was kind of that approach of, let's see what the other teams are doing. And then even in that season, last season, 23, we saw them falling away. So I think that's a bit different from maybe having your own concept, a great platform, and knowing how to build on it. So if they could have Adrian Newey going in there, fault finding, obviously he's going to be consulting. He's not going to be probably on the shop floor 24/7, but gets them going with a different philosophy where they can become one of those teams that sustains development through the course of the season. Yeah, I mean, I think the sky's the limit. They showed they can start well last year, so why not?
Jess, I want you to read the question written here under the heading Monza, because I don't want to read it because I don't know. I want to hear you read this.
I'll read it because I asked Spanners this in person a week ago. He happened to be in Miami on a layover, and that's when this whole crazy idea of having him back on the show took place in my brain. And the question I asked him was, Spanners, was Red Bull cheating the entire year until the Dutch GP? And I think there's maybe more evidence to support some more smoke after this past weekend at Monza.
So basically, to get on the show, I have to fly to Miami, have tacos with you, and then I can come back. Well, I think this is, feel free to interrupt me at any point, because I think this could turn out to be like a bit of a rant, but the evidence is really racking up. And so I think before Zandvoort, there was the Red Bull accounts and Red Bull employees even coming out and saying, if you think that there's anything fishy going on, you're a witch, you're an outcast, you should have your leg chopped off. But now, I think after these last 2 races, it is fairly reasonable to go, something drastic has happened. We can agree on that. Something, whether it's the brake thingy, something has definitely happened.
So let's kind of talk through the conspiracy a little bit. We talked about it last week and a little bit maybe the week before, but there's maybe people that think that Checo has just been racing in a different car this entire time, and that maybe is why Max has not like fallen down to kind of meet where Checo is at, and it's not just like Max is in the best car ever and Checo stinks all of a sudden. There's maybe some more like evidence that different cars, Max has had this little thingy on it, whatever it was, and you could probably describe it better than me with all of your engineering technical terms. But now they have gotten this not technical directive, but this rules technical clarification thingy during the summer break.
Specific rule change.
Very specific rule change. And now Max is coming back down to where Checo's been at. And that is not the driver finishing the races 20 seconds faster than everyone else. That's like a solidly, second or third, maybe fourth level car.
They called us mad, didn't they? They called us mad. They said, you're crazy. But look, I've been really consistent on this because when you watch a driver for their whole career and then they suddenly just look like a mug, like Perez has looked the last 8 to 10 races, probably, with Miami onwards, you go, there's something not right. And I've said, I'm waiting for the book. I'm waiting for the story to come out because clearly something's happened. And the huge giveaway in the post-race interview was Perez saying, I've been struggling with this issue for the last 8 to 10 races. And all of a sudden, Verstappen is struggling from the same thing as well. And that is a much better explanation to me than Perez just completely forgot to know how to drive. I think nobody's claiming that Perez is going to beat Verstappen week in, week out. But you'd think, like in 2022, 2023, he'd nick the odd race. Whereas in the last 8 to 10 races, he's been a class behind. So almost what you would expect if he was almost like the guinea pig going forward to comply with whatever the new rules would be or whatever's been found out. And then 8 to 10 races later, Verstappen is also catching up. There is precedence for this and doing things this way. So the FIA will often, issue a technical directive or respond to a technical directive and give the teams kind of time. They go, I see what you've been doing there. All right, there's a technical directive and we're going to inspect it after the summer break, which is exactly what happened last season when it came to 2 technical directives with the front wing and the floor. And I was sat in a pub over the summer, and I don't know if we're supposed to read or have access to technical directives, but I was in a pub and this person made me read it and said, don't tell anyone that I let you read it. And I'm pretty sure I gave away who it was. So I am sorry to that person. But, it was very clear. It was like, right, we've identified these issues. One was with the front wing, one was with the floor. And then you get to after the summer break and there's one team really, really struggling consistently since then. And then there was one team that had one race with a bit of an issue with the floor and then was able to sort it out. So I don't know, maybe they had a bit of a heads up, experimented on Perez, and then, it finally got to deadline time and they haven't been able to get their head around it. But Perez says, we know what the issue is. Horner says, we have no idea what the issue is. One of those is a lie.
Spencer, can you read the 4th question or the 3rd question under Monza in our sheet about Ferrari?
Yes, since I put you on the spot with the first one, I'll take the bullet for the 3rd one, which is, hey man, did Ferrari win on accident?
Is it just statistical? Just like, roll the dice enough, you're going to come up with a 6. No, I don't think so at all. I think they target Monza, don't they? Because they love it. They love a bit of Monza. They love a Monza win, does Ferrari. And so they targeted the usual Monza-specific upgrade. And, maybe it was just a good upgrade. And then Red Bull have taken themselves out of it. Mercedes took themselves out of it by Hamilton having yet another bad qualifying, which he put his hands up for. So that kind of leaves Ferrari versus the McLarens. And the McLarens made some mistakes. They pushed each other too hard. Piastri was desperately trying to get away to avoid the undercut, which was hilarious. And then, not only did they burn their tyres, but Norris made a mistake as well, which put him out of undercut range. But Ferrari just read the graining. Everybody else, even though all the talk of the paddock was, you're going to have a graining phase. I don't know if that needs explaining, but a phase where the little rubber bits bobble up on top and stop the flatness of the tyre connecting with the ground. So you get a little bit of a period where the tyres aren't quite doing their job, and then that fades away. And so everyone was talking about graining, but everyone but Ferrari blinked every time there was graining and pitted out of the way. And they probably all could have stayed out. But Ferrari were the ones that read it And then as soon as Norris pitted, I went, and I have proof that I messaged this to someone. As soon as Norris pitted, I went, oh, Ferrari are going to win. They can just stay out unless Piastri stays out. He pits, and you go, oh, wow. It's not a fluke. I think just massively well done, Ferrari. And I've got some championship maths for if that result continues for the rest of the season.
Well, give us the maths.
You want the maths? Okay, here we go. Mm-hmm. Here's some stats. So, by the way, it's because I had a huge edit to do. And I was procrastinating, and that led me to do this maths.
Procrastinating doing maths. Oh my God.
No, sorry.
Such an engineer.
Don't call your daughter a nerd. Yeah.
No, my daughter's a nerd because at 12, we let them go out into the city by themselves for the first time. I phone up to see if she's okay. She's in a museum. Nerd. Anyway.
Here's some math.
If the next 8 races finish like the last race finished. So with Leclerc first, Piastri second, Norris third, and Verstappen in 6th. That's the 4 drivers I've done. Leclerc will win the championship with 441 points, right? Norris would be second with 379 points. So 62 points back. I think that's 62 points back. Verstappen would be just behind with 376 and Piastri on 362. So if Ferrari put together an 8-race winning run, he's going to be champion by a long way, right? So I'm not saying he's going to win every race, but given there's a 60-point margin in that equation, that means Leclerc is in this, 100% in this. And when was the last time a Ferrari driver sneaked a championship with 2 embattled teams facing repercussions from the FIA? Kimi Räikkönen, 2007. It's happening again. My money is on Leclerc.
I like that this is happening to a driver who I would categorize as the exact opposite of Kimi Räikkönen in pretty much every way.
He's nice, isn't he? Are we being tricked?
He's adorable. I don't know if we have the clip ready of him and Carlos Sainz doing the blindfold drive around Monza on the sim, but it was so cute, and they both said ratatouille in their own accents.
Right, left, right. This is like ratatouille.
Ratatouille.
Yeah, he's the last person I would imagine looking at an announcer and going, "Sorry, I was having a shit live on air." So it's like Leclerc, Raikkonen, same fate.
Would never.
Completely different poles here. You were recently in the United States where you had tacos with Jessica, among other things. You just got back from Houston. I've already asked you about what a toll that took on your health and what an improvement on your well-being it was at the same time.
I have gained 8 pounds since I left the UK.
That's 8 pounds of Texas.
How many stones is that?
That's over half a stone. I couldn't believe I was in the sales and I was just going, no, I've been working so hard. Stupid Texas.
Stupid, beautiful, wonderful Texas. I wanted to ask, could you rank the United States that you have been to in order?
I think so. So absolute favorite so far is Florida. So Miami, I fell in love with. I mean, I'm not quite so familiar with like the politics of it, but whenever I say Florida, people go, "Oh, hang on a minute." I tell you what, every cab driver.
You're speaking to 2 former/current Florida residents, so. Yeah.
Right. I tell you what, you get in an Uber and within 60 seconds, you know exactly who they're voting for in the election. It's crazy. But I just fell in love with South Beach. It's the most beautiful beach. The food is great. And I just felt happy. I felt happy walking around in Miami. Second is probably New York. That's a state as well as a city, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Because it's exactly like London. So basically, if I teleported to New York, I might not notice for a while. So it's very comfortable and amazing pizza. So I think that's P2. And then I've been to the Carolinas and Georgia and then Texas. And so I found the Carolinas and Georgia quite alarming. So it's not like, driving through. I found it alarming. You know, you've got I don't want to get any hate here, but you know, there's like flags and buildings and stuff, and it's all very in your face. So people are very out loud about what they think at any given time. I just tried to stop as little as possible. And also there were so many signs that were very specific about whether or not you could have your gun. So like, you know, you can come here, but you can't bring your gun in here. And I'm like, that seems like a very specific thing to have to say. There must be many guns.
Well, it's like if you see a sign that says "No bears on leashes." That means that somebody at one point attempted to bring a bear on a leash into the property.
Bears are certainly an issue in this state. And actually, I thought Texas would be more like that, but it wasn't. Texas is beautiful. The people in Texas were so friendly. I did not stop talking to people in Houston and Austin. But the only downside is that is the food. The 8 pounds came entirely from delicious Texas. Stupid delicious Texas.
So I think our audience would probably agree with your assessment of most of the states.
Sorry.
I'll give you Miami. When you're coming from somewhere, I assume where you live can be a little drab, a little dreary at times.
Statistically, the most overcast country on earth.
Yeah. I think that explains the Miami assessment. Sometimes you just need the sunshine.
I think Spanners has an Englishman has a unique weakness for Florida.
Oh my God, the sun! It's unreal. And there's weather in Miami where you guys out there are finding it a little cold, and you've got like a gilet and maybe some long pants, and I'm sitting there just in a bathing suit, just dripping with sweat.
Yeah. I think that certainly tracks. You brought up pizza. You've had New York style pizza. A very to steal your term, alarming thing happened on F1 social media this weekend, which is Daniel Ricciardo posted a picture of a pizza that looked really bad. We're going to show it to you, and I want to know your reaction to this pizza. It had like strips of flesh-colored zucchini on it and some sort of like drizzled white thing on top, and it really truly did look very unappetizing.
Oh my God, that's gross. Okay, no, that's not pizza. At best, that looks like garlic bread with some cucumber on it. So no, and his name's Daniel Ricciardo, so there's some Italian roots. He's got to change his name now to like Daniel Davison or something, because that is an affront to pizza. I'm sure you can agree, as someone who's had New York pizza. New York pizza, second best only to Italian pizza. Don't know what the hell that is. That should burn. Burn it!
It does look very unappetizing. One of my friends, Christine, who is a big like New York or a big Italian and New York food scene person, said that it's a zucchini pizza with super thin crust, panna zafferano, which is saffron, and gorgonzola. And she's like, "Don't worry, no, it's really good." And I was like, "Your description just made it sound worse." Ex-friend.
I have a question too that while we're on this topic of pizza, Essex pizza. What would an Essex style pizza be?
Oh, here, do you know what? Everything's just like a doughy cake with just as much meat on it as you can, which is fine. But then the second you go to Rome, you go, oh my God, I've never had pizza and I will never have pizza again. The best thing is to go out of, say, Rome or something like that, and you find a pizzeria that's got a sign that is empty. And that is probably a money laundering facility, but they are obliged to serve you when you go in. And that is the best pizza, because they're like, oh, well, you're here now. We may as well, get chatting. You get treated like one of the family because they're like, we didn't know people knew where we were. And you get amazing lasagna, amazing pizza. Just forget about the crimes. Put them out of your head.
I'm building a business profile for Spanners here. He is Miami obsessed and he enjoys money laundering pizza. We're going to get Interpol on your ass in like the third question.
We're going to talk about Piastri's overtake, and now we're talking about crimes.
All right, fine. Since you brought it up, you mentioned Leclerc still has a shot at the Drivers' Championship. Lando Norris also still has a pretty good shot at the Drivers' Championship, but it doesn't seem like McLaren thinks Lando Norris has a shot at the Drivers' Championship. So I would say Ferrari and McLaren are both teams that sometimes can't get out of their own way when it comes to like executing strategy and like winning things at the moment. So what is McLaren doing at this current moment, trying to navigate having two really good drivers, but only one that is in a little bit more serious contention here?
Yeah, I think they might have. I think they might have a case of like wood for the trees, because there's everybody is everybody wrong, but McLaren's right. McLaren want this philosophy of they've got two number ones. Will Buxton suggesting that maybe it's contractual because Piastri's manager is Mark Webber, and he will thump a glass on the desk if Piastri is ever asked to follow a team order. So there could be some contractual stuff there, but I think my core feeling is they wanted to be, a good team that treats people well, that treats drivers well. You're both the number one. Let's just fight. It's pure racing. But there might have been an element of, Red Bull are too far ahead in the drivers. We're never going to catch them. But that underestimates just how badly Red Bull are doing at the moment. And Verstappen saying, we're not going to win another race. So I think they're, at the moment, legitimately the fourth best team. And with no DNFs, Verstappen could finish 7th every race going into the season, because I don't think they've got much development coming. There's some vague talk of fixing things, but they're down on wind tunnel time. They've clearly been nerfed in some way. I don't feel any kind of risk saying that at the moment. It feels like it's so obvious they've been nerfed in some way. So if they don't fix it, Verstappen's more or less out of the championship. And then what they haven't done then is look backwards at Leclerc and gone, actually, Ferrari, their upgrade, they said, brings them back up to where they want it to be. Ferrari haven't been Ferrariing a lot this season. They've actually been pretty decent, and they just had that upgrade path that went in the wrong direction. If they fix that as well, the championship could be down to Norris versus Leclerc. And do you know who's not going to dive bomb Leclerc at turn 4 in Baku? It's Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz will sit. If that was Carlos Sainz and Leclerc at Monza, he would have filed in the back, and he would have increased the gap, and he would have watched the Mercedes, the McLarens behind him, getting more and more frustrated, been in the way, and watched Leclerc become a dot in the foreground. So that might be the better approach. It could be that McLaren have their hands tied and can't tell Piastri to yield. And when they were asked in the press conference about it, Norris goes, oh, it's a bit tight. Oh, he was a bit around the offside. Should there be team orders? He said, well, it's not up to me to say, but, brackets, please, that would be lovely because I'm trying to win a world championship. And Piastri said, no comment. So you go, well, that's clear. No comment is, I'm here completely for myself. I am here to win races. I'm not faulting that at all. But also, from his point of view, he could be thinking, it looks bad if my teammate wins a championship in a car that I also have had the chance to win the championship. But if I take points off him, that doesn't happen. And no one will think about me losing to Norris this season if he doesn't win the championship. And then I can go at it, the next season. So Lando Norris actually has someone, I think, actively against him in his own team, whereas Ferrari will work as a unit. Red Bull will work as a unit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering what happens. So let's say neither McLaren driver wins a championship this year. What happens going into the next year? Because it feels like if McLaren were to stay this year definitively, Lando has the better shot at winning the drivers. He's our number one driver. Then going into next year, maybe that stays true. Like maybe they maintain some sort of 1-2 hierarchy. But if they don't do that now, it just feels like it's completely up for grabs for either of them. And I don't think that necessarily puts either driver in a very comfortable position moving forward.
It's so weird.
It's weird, yeah.
The Piastrati, as I'm calling them, the getting super angry. Piastrati, yeah. Because he's Australian, but that's got to be an Italian name, hasn't it? Piastri? It sounds so much like pasta. It's got to be Italian.
Sounds like a Blink-182 drummer or something, or I don't know.
Fair enough. Or a disgusting pizza with cucumber on it. But the Piastri fans are so angry about the suggestion that, so Piastri shouldn't race Norris? No one's saying that. Oh, Piastri should be number 2? No one's saying that. At the beginning of the season, have 2 number 1s, right? Yes, Piastri isn't technically mathematically out of title contention, but if you wanted to be in this title fight with 8 races to go, the time to do it was earlier in the season. That's kind of gone now. So you're in the same garage and the same hotels and the same workshop as all these McLaren, people, of all the mechanics, all at the HR department, all hoping for glory. But you're actively going to be the one now with 8 races to go to take away the Drivers' Championship from them, because they're not going to be celebrating mega hard with the constructors if they know they let the Drivers' Championship go. Who's going to be celebrating most at the end of the season? If Verstappen's world champion and McLaren are constructors, it's all going to be the Red Bull celebrating. And so you're Piastri, you're sat there, your colleagues are a bit sad. Oh, we missed out by 5-10 points. And does that feel good? I don't know. At this point in the season, at the beginning of the season, 100% reset, equal number 1s. But come on.
Yeah, if I were Lando, I'd be like, "What the fuck?" Straight up.
Yeah. What else? What else can I do? Right?
Yeah, it was really unfair. Norris, they said, he should have just defended better. Oh, really? He should have just driven him off track, and we'd all be fine with that.
Right.
We'd be sitting here slaughtering him.
It's very weird too, because the biggest critics of Lando are sort of, their reasoning is that like Lando can't maintain his position when he's on pole and he can't finish lap 1 in first place, which is definitely true based on this season, but not necessarily a criteria indicating that he should not get a sort of different treatment because he has finished better in all of those races too. Right?
So
I don't know.
There's been races where both McLarens have come off the line slow. So you kind of go, okay, it's a bit unfair if there's something about the McLaren that makes it more difficult to get off the line. Plus, at Monza, got off the line fine, got through turn 1 and 2 in first place. And then his teammates sent it from the outside. And as soon as Norris saw that, you saw he got on the brakes early enough to make sure he could really tuck in on the apex and leave room on the outside. So he's got a much more lock on and he's offline, which is why he has that little wiggle and that lets Leclerc through as well. But to be honest, like if Piastri only got to the apex first because Norris was kind of looking after that situation and making sure he didn't hit him. If Norris had just broken, as late as he could break and still make the exit, he could have made the apex first, run Piastri off, and we'd all be sitting here going, oh, he's not a team player. That's horrible. He's stupid. So no, I feel really sorry for Norris in that situation. It was not a fair battle because Piastri was not considering that.
When does this really start hurting McLaren? Like
now.
Immediately.
Right now. I mean, Spanners, it seems like Lando has also become one of those drivers now that like he has a huge supportive base, but he also has a huge amount of, I guess, like Lando haters. Like he's become, how has he become a driver that you feel like has sort of split people in such a divisive way?
Does it sound like I'm a Norris fan the way I've been?
No, I think I probably sound like a Norris fan because I sort of am one, but I'm also like not. I mean, I'm more of a Lewis fan.
I mean, I was gonna say you're like half in the bag. You're like half in the bag.
I love Lewis Hamilton. I'll just bleep this out.
And actually, a lot of the reason that I'm not a Norris fan at all, and this is not a talent thing, is that he kept taking so many unnecessary pops at Hamilton. I'm like, hey,
right.
So that puts you in the other camp. Oh yeah, go iRacing and do live streams with Hamilton's nemesis Verstappen. That's fine. You've picked your side in the F1 civil war. You're on Ant-Man's team now. So like from a fandom point of view, I'm definitely not in camp Norris for this. But I think he's come in with so much hype that you're either one of those people who's like, oh yeah, he thinks he's so good. Let's see what happens. And when it's come down to the crunch, when he's had opportunities to win and when he's had pole positions, it hasn't worked out at the moment. So he's very self-critical. He's kind of berating himself. He's very honest about the mistakes he makes. So I think it's both equally valid to not be a fan of his and be a fan of his. Like he's got plenty in his favor as well. Mm-hmm. Funny, talented, charismatic. I'm torn, but if I had to pick a side, and I don't have to, but I have, I'm going the other side.
Yeah, I think it's probably like fair to defend him from a sporting point of view without having to necessarily, but you know how it is being an entertainer on a podcast and everyone.
You got to pick a side.
You're wearing a Williams shirt right now. I mean,
come on.
No. Okay, so that's like love. That's just love, though. That's the Williams team. So that's from like growing up in the 80s. Lion-O, Nigel Mansell, Red 5, and then Coulthard and Hill. That's just pure love. Like you will not take Williams away from me.
I have one more question, which is this: if you have, I'll just give you free reign. You're looking at the rest of the season, the remaining races that we have left. Tell me 2 bizarre things you're pretty sure are going to happen. It doesn't have to be with the big 3. Doesn't have to be anything important. Just 2 things that you go, hey man, it's gonna get weird. I think these 2 things are happening.
I don't know. All right, 2 weird things that could happen in this season.
Two weird things.
Let's have some like big points for Colapinto, right? So he's come in and replaced your lad. Sorry about that. Sorry, America.
We don't care.
Yeah,
we really don't care.
This podcast was not like, we were kind of impartial.
Honestly, I think America would be much more shaken up, FYI, if Hamilton or Norris were dumped, if something bad happened to them, than if something bad happened to Logan Sargent, because we like winners. It's not fair,
a lot of
but we do.
Support for Hamilton in America. Like he is supported heavily. I think Norris in the UK is supported really heavily. If you go to I mean, if I look at if I was to put a poll out on my Twitter, who's your favorite team? McLaren wins every single time in the UK, and Norris has huge support here as well. But weird things that would happen. Okay, I think we're going to see. I do think we're going to see now a resurgence, a run from Ferrari. So I'll predict that Ferrari's 2 drivers will outscore McLaren's 2 drivers for the next 3 races now, and give us an interesting run in. And I think we haven't heard the last of the flexi wing investigation into Mercedes and McLaren. So the FIA have said today that all the wings are legal according to 2024 regs, but they only test those wings at low speed. At 0 speed. So they test the flexibility. They've put a bunch of cameras on the wings to assess it for next year, they said. So across a variety of tracks, low speed, high speed, medium speed. But there was a little caveat where they said, we are now going to investigate this internally. So you go, oh, hang on a minute. That's not actually over, is it? And so you go, it's Red Bull that are making the complaint. And Red Bull, they have ways of making the FIA do things. Is that weird enough?
That's weird
So
enough.
You could end up
I
with
think it works.
Red Bull having been nerfed, Mercedes and McLaren getting nerfed, and it's just like, who's left? Who's not cheating?
I like that we're talking about Red Bull like a weapon in Fortnite, right? Like, they nerfed it. It used to be really good.
Well,
Haas.
remember at the beginning of the season? Sorry, at the beginning of the season, we were going, this Red Bull domination, this Verstappen domination is a disaster for Formula One. Like literally a disaster. Numbers falling away. Every creator I spoke to said podcast numbers were down, not missed Apex, because, we're mint and we're dope. So we were okay. But the interest was falling, obviously, watching one team win by 20 seconds over and over again. And I just was like, okay, I'm all for sporting integrity. But if you're from a business point of view and for everyone's sake, goodness sake, nerf Red Bull, for goodness sake. I don't know. Did they go digging around looking for something and then they found something? And that's what set Perez off on that slump. And then now they finished it and they've gone, no, you're out of lives now. You've got to get rid of it.
If that's the case, I think we will find out in this DOJ investigation into F1 on behalf of the Andretti Motorsport Group.
So we do actually have a 40-minute segment on Missed Apex.
I listened to it. It was like trumpets and 2 lawyers, and they were just talking about like the Department of Justice, and I listened to the entire thing. It was great. Very helpful.
Listen, when the DOJ the DOJ doesn't start a fair fight. Just know that they don't start fair fights.
I had to edit that.
Yeah.
It's like so to the fact that you listen to that voluntarily, it's like when your best friend sleeps with your wife, and you're like, Dave, I have to, but you were free.
That was almost as good as when you said too many chefs spoiling the broth. I like your spanners.
Cooks spoil the broth? Is that the phrase?
I've just never heard the spoil the broth part before.
Okay.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, I should be better at talking considering my...
No, you are. You're very good. You're, I would say, excellent. Okay, speaking of sporting integrity, I think we need to move on to the biggest story of the weekend. Spencer, tell me what happened in the NASCAR race with the guy that puked and pooped himself.
Yes, Tyler Reddick. In an important final regular season race of the year for NASCAR, came down with what I can only assume was turbo ass, stuttering bowel. Michael Jordan in an extreme variation of...
He was too honest.
He was too honest because he said, as somebody who has had his own poop game, he came out and said that Tyler Reddick gutted it out. If you listen to, which is true, because he did gut it out and he did get through the race despite having diarrhea and upset stomach and vomiting to the point where he was begging people. And I know that you have been at this stage in your life, so sympathize with Tyler in real time. He said, just give me crackers or something. Just he fell back to 8th at one point and said, I'm doing all I can. I promise.
I'm just curious for CJ's feedback here. You worried about throwing up or no, just stomach stuff? Yeah, I'm throwing up. Being myself, all of it. All right, so it's both. We got you covered. Pills, you'll chew. Those are tops. The rest of them you swallow with water.
Okay, I'm just really fighting it right now in here. Get some crackers or something too, just plain crackers, I don't know, bread, something.
Yep, ma'am, we'll get you.
And he managed to pass Chase Elliott for 10th, very close to the end of the race. I think there were 5 laps left, and that made all the difference. Tyler Reddick, man, congratulations for just...
Yeah, he's the in-season champion now, right?
Yes, he won the
by 1 point.
He won the championship by enduring what sounded like a cataclysmic attack of atomic ass, and he managed to get through it.
But yeah, thank goodness he managed to get through that. That is tough. That's like worst case scenario. Okay, so put it this way: if I need a pee, I can't enjoy dinner. So like if dinner's ready, if someone's like making you dinner or the food's arriving at a restaurant, I see it coming, I go, oh, there's a small chance I'll need a pee I have to go run and do it because you can't focus. So if you've got a major sporting event, and also I once had a fitness day. I'm not going to tell that story.
Well,
I've been in a similar situation, and it was just
on the sim. You couldn't get up and go to the bathroom.
No, it was a physical test, and it was a forced march, and halfway through, I was like, oh no, right. I don't think there's any possibility I can hold this. I'm going to have to quit. And then you have an hour of just like bearing down, and it's just pure willpower. So well done, Tyler.
I was thinking this entire time watching it, I was going, F1 driver wouldn't do that, buddy. Not because of any sort of machismo or American toughness, but simply because F1 drivers value their time and lives. And they would just say, you know what? We should retire this car.
Really happy for 2311 though, because they're my buddies now, 2311.
Yeah.
So really pleased for them. They were all like delighted and celebrating. But then Bubba Wallace was I was watching it live because I'm still on Texas time. So I was watching it at like 3 a.m. here, and like Wallace needed his run, didn't he, to finish first to be in the playoffs, and just did so well to just about avoid a big shunt in front, and then the 10 car just came steamrolling through.
Okay, Spanners, we're gonna wrap in a second, but you tell us what you have going on Missed Apex. I know you're coming back to the States for another NASCAR event soon.
Yeah.
So tease it for us.
Well, that's down to 2311. So they invited us out for Darlington at the beginning of the season. We produced some content, and it's just trying to kind of do a little bit of inter promotion and introducing F1 fans to the delights of NASCAR. But when I first saw a NASCAR start, and the herd of cars came firing past, it was just it was like a life event, and I'm so glad I'm experiencing this. And now I'm into the sporting side of it. It's really great. So they've invited us out again, and we get to speak to some people from NASCAR, and we're working with Mobile One as well. So we had an interview on Missed Apex with Juan Pablo Montoya, who was exactly as Juan Pablo Montoya as you would expect Juan Pablo Montoya to be. It was so exciting. He was curmudgeonly. He was forthright. He was honest. He just took note if we asked a stupid question. It was very clear we'd asked a stupid question. He was great. And then we went out to Houston and spoke to the Jota guys, the World Endurance guys. So we've got an interview with Jenson Button coming up, and Callum Eilert, as well as the technical team at Mobile One. So exciting times really for Missed Apex. And we will be in Watkins Glen, and the Missed Apex writing is going to be on the 50 and the 23 car. So really, really excited.
Wow. I hope no one poops in it. That would be a disappointment.
Tyler Reddick, by the way, denied pooping in the car. He said he was fighting it, which
he was sharding. Oh, okay.
No, he would have disappeared quickly. If you've done that, if you've gone, you will disappear quickly.
He would have put the car into the wall, let it catch fire, done everyone a favor.
He thought it was a poop, but luckily it was just a fart.
Yeah, he goes, did you poop in the end, or were you okay? No, I was fine. Tyler, be honest. It's like that David Beckham meme. Be honest.
That's literally championship shit right there.
El Asico.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Spencer.
I do not think we have had a better episode of DNF. So thank you very much, Spanners, for
so much fun. Anytime, guys. Anytime you're short of someone to chat to, I'll jump on. But it's exactly this is what that's what you get. I don't have another gear.
No, we'll hold you to it. Maybe he ate the pizza Daniel Ricciardo had. I don't know.
No, that would have definitely been pooping yourself. That much zucchini before a long NASCAR race, please. For everyone here, for Spanners, for Jessica Spatana, I'm Spencer Hall. This has been DNF. Hey, rate us, subscribe, do all the things. 5 stars, anything less, and frankly, you're the
We'll
DNF.
come for you. We'll hunt you down.
Yeah, we'll find you. We'll make you eat the pizza.